Hello and welcome to Bumble Stitches podcast episode 33. My name's Nicola and you can find me as Bumble Stitches on Instagram and also on Ravelry as Bumble Stitches, and we also have a podcast group for the podcast in the groups tab, which you're more than welcome to join. It'd be lovely to see you there. Today is Sunday the 2nd of December and it's quite late in the afternoon, so it's just starting to get dark outside and the light isn't great. I've had spent quite a lot of time trying to fiddle with it to get it as good as I can, so the shadow from the lampshade might be a bit distracting, but hopefully it will be adequate for the podcast, so apologies if the lighting isn't fabulous today. So it's really nice to be back and spend a bit of time with you. It's a really busy time of year now that we're into December, and I know that everyone's got so many things on their mind and so many things that they need to do, shopping for Christmas and preparing all the various things that we have to do for Christmas, gift knitting and all that kind of thing. So I just thought it'd be nice to take a few quiet moments and just catch up with some of the things that I've been working on and some other things I wanted to tell you about. I have noticed that there have been a lot of new subscribers to the podcast since I last podcast, which was about 3 weeks ago. So a big warm welcome to all of you that have subscribed, and of course welcome back to all of the previous viewers that have come back again to join me today. Now I'm quite curious as to how a lot of you, especially the new subscribers, have found the channel. So I think I'll do a little giveaway on YouTube, which I'll give you details of a little bit later on when I get to the knit-alongs and giveaway section, because I've got quite a few things to talk about with you today relating to those. So yes, but it would be, I'm just very, very curious because it's been quite a big jump since the last podcast, and I'm very, very grateful that you have decided to subscribe and join us all. But yeah, I'd just like to know how you found the podcast, just because I'm nosy really. Okay, I'm just gonna have a little sip. I've got coffee today, so I've got quite a lot to go through, as I said, and I think I need a coffee to keep me going. And I have treated myself, although the house isn't decorated for Christmas yet, I have treated myself to a new Christmas mug, which is this cute little snowman that I bought in Starbucks the other day. And mugs are a little bit of a contentious issue in this house. We have one cupboard in the kitchen where all the mugs are kept, and it is quite full, and whenever a new one arrives it's questioned as to why we need a new mug. So I don't have any problem getting yarn into the house, thank goodness, but mugs, yeah, bit of a different subject. Anyway, I just have some coffee. Okay, I'm going to start off with some finished objects first of all. So just spin around and grab that. Okay, so the first finished object that I wanted to share with you today is my Rebel cardigan. And this is a pattern by Truly Myrtle, which is Libby Johnson. And she is Truly Myrtle Photos on Instagram, but she is Truly Myrtle on Ravelry. And I had the pleasure of test knitting this cardi design for Libby. I think it was in October, and the pattern was released round about the second week of November. So it is available on Ravelry now, and I was waiting obviously until I podcast again before I could share it with you. Now I did plan to wear this today, but I've been getting a bit hot and flustered, so I've put my shorter sleeve So Faded on rather than have a longer length sleeve cardi on. So I was just getting a little bit hot and bothered today. Too many jobs to do, too much stuff going on. So anyway, back to the Rebel. So this is a fingering weight cardi, and you can see it has an edge to edge garter border. So no button band, so really simple finishing off, and that runs along to the bottom of the cardi, where you can see there are these really cute little pockets here, which is a really nice little touch. And one thing that I particularly love about this design is the split cuff with the garter detail as well. It's a drop shoulder design, so it's a nice relaxed shape and just sort of straight down, quite boxy at the back, but quite an ingenious construction. And at the top of the back here, you literally just split off for the two fronts. I don't know if you can see the way that just sort of splits off there. So minimal shaping. There's some short row shaping across the back and front of the shoulders, and then some nice relaxing stockinette knitting, and of course you work the garter borders as you go along. So as I said, there's no sort of finishing off to do at the end of the project. So once you've finished knitting and you pop the sleeves on, then it's just a case of block and wear. So it's a really, really nice knit, just to chill out and not have to concentrate too much on a complicated pattern, but you still get a really wearable garment, and just fabulous in all the colourways that I've seen it. Quite a few of the test knitters did really very, very different yarn choices, and they all looked absolutely stunning. Now this yarn that I've used here is Mr. B's, available from Bird Street UK on Etsy, and this is their 4-ply sock weight in the colourway Mutendi on their Hiddleston base, which I believe is a 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. So really easy to look after, a nice sort of autumnal colourway, and I've put quite a lot of photographs on my Ravelry project page. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you can find me on Ravelry as Bumble Stitches. So if you want to have a look at the project page for my Rebel cardigan, you can see it there, and there's quite a few photographs in the daylight of it being worn, so you can get a better idea, and also check out all the other finished garments, Libby's of course, and some of the other test knitters, and quite a few people have started knitting this already. So I was really thrilled to have taken part in the test knit, thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got a really nice garment now, wearable garment, looks great with trousers and jeans and little sort of vest tops underneath, or t-shirts, or whatever you want to pair it with. Really, really enjoyed knitting this. I knitted this in the size, I'll just check on my notes here. I knitted a size 48 inch, so that it gives a nice loose sort of fit. It's quite relaxed fit. And I knitted it in about 3.5 skeins of sock weight yarn. So it's a good knit. It's not a huge yarn investment. And you could even do it as a fade if you've got some sort of coordinating skeins of sock yarn in your stash. You could work this as a fade quite easily if you didn't have 3 skeins in stash, or 3.5 skeins, all the same, obviously depending on your size. But you can check all that out on the pattern on Ravelry. I would encourage you to check your gauge, obviously with any garment that you knit. This I knitted on 3mm needles for the main part of the stockinette, and 2.75mm for the border, the cuffs and the border here. Obviously this part is all just knitted the same, so that was in 3mm. But yes, so that is my first finished object of this episode of the podcast, which is Rebel by Trudy Myrtle. I'll just pop that over here. In the run up to Christmas, this room is also, as well as being my craft room, it's also the holding area for all the Christmas presents and everything related to Christmas. So it's a little bit of a bomb site at the moment. So I had to do some careful camera positioning to make sure that you can only see snippets of what's going on here, which is all a bit driving me crazy at the moment. But enough of that. Okay. I do have another finished object to share with you, which is the Rewilding shawl. And I shared this last time on the podcast as a work in progress, and it is now complete. So this is the Rewilding shawl by Curious Handmade, which is Helen Stewart, and this was designed as a pattern for the country house retreat that I attended back in October. Yeah, end of September, beginning of October. So really lovely, simple, asymmetrical triangle with the eyelet detail. It's blocked up beautifully. I'll just show you that a bit closer. So the eyelet detail there, and then lots of nice rhythmic garter and a pretty picot bind off there. So it was a one skein project. Actually, the skein of yarn that we were given, which was Meadow by the fibre company, was quite a large skein. This is a light fingering, almost a lace weight yarn, and there was actually quite a bit left. Now I'm classing it as a finished object, but I'm being a bit cheeky because I haven't actually added the tassels that are part of the design, but I do have the tassels here, which I've made ready, but I just need to sit and sew them on. But I'm just trying to figure out the best way of making sure they're really secure on the shawl. I guess sew them in and then weave the ends into the shawl as much as I can, but you get the idea that the tassels will sit. This is going to be difficult to show now, isn't it? The tassels will sit on the 3 points of the shawl. So I'll try and get that done and show it to you as a completely finished object on the next episode. So that, in kit form, if you like, is my next finished object for today. It's the Rewilding Shawl by Curious Handmade. Pop this over here. So I've got quite a lot of information on knit-alongs and giveaways and all that kind of exciting stuff. So I'm going to start by announcing the winner of the old and new cowl for November. And for those of you that don't know, that are new to the podcast, all this year we have been running in the Ravelry group, excuse me, too much fluff in the air, yarn fumes, a knit along to use old stash and combine it with a new pattern, or a pattern that's new to you that you've not knit before. And I'll just grab the price. Sorry, there's a lot of twizzling around today. I can't fit everything on the table. And there were lots of lovely entries for November. In fact, there have been for every single month through the duration of the cowl. It's just been amazing how many people have knitted such beautiful projects. Hi, I'm back after a little bit of a coughing fit. There's quite a lot of mohair in the room and I had to tidy up earlier, and I think I've dislodged so many fibres of fluff that it made me cough quite a bit. I had to do some, hopefully the editing isn't too clumsy, it isn't my forte, so apologies for that. Yes, the winner of the old and new cowl for November, and the prize is a fabulous prize this month. It's a combination of this beautiful skein of yarn from Ellie at Craft House Magic, and it's in the Merry Christmas Everyone colourway, and this was donated to as a prize to the podcast by one of our lovely podcast viewers, and it goes along with this Sockmas project bag from Julie at Suffolk Socks, who's the dyer behind the Yarn Tart brand. So this is the wonderful prize. As I mentioned, I don't know if that's got lost in the edit with me coughing, there were lots of wonderful entries into the old and new cowl. So it's, just to recap, it's old stash yarn and a pattern new to you. And I put the entries into the random number generator, just checking my notes, and the winner was post number 25, and that is Nancy, who's Wheel's wife, from Moncton, New Brunswick in Canada. So congratulations, Nancy, you're the winner of the wonderful Christmas yarn and project bag. And Nancy knitted a lovely pair of socks in like a fuchsia pinky tone, which are absolutely stunning. So Nancy, get in touch, give me your address and I'll try and get these to you I'll certainly post them this week, but I do know that you guys have been having some problems with Canada Post of late, so I'm hoping this will get to you before Christmas. So do get in touch and I'll get your prize off to you. Okay, the next winner that I need to announce today, Becky Norman, who is part of the Bird Box podcast, has released her new pattern recently on Ravelry, which is called the Snow Day Cowl, and she kindly offered a free copy of the pattern as a giveaway for the podcast. So I opened a thread in Ravelry, and there were quite a few entries, and good old number generator has offered up a winner for us today to win that free pattern, and that was post number 19, and that is Miva's Corner, which is Linda from Yeovil in the UK. Congratulations, Linda. And I asked the question, what would be your favourite things to do if you had an unexpected snow day? And like a lot of us, Linda said she'd like to do some knitting by the fire with a nice cup of hot chocolate. So sounds perfect, Linda. Get in touch and I will pop your details over to Becky and she will send you the copy of the Snow Day Cowl, and I hope you enjoy knitting it. Okay, so there's one more month left to run in the Old and New Cowl for 2018 for December, and I'll just share the prize with you. Sorry, I'm twizzling around again. And the prize for that is this beautiful handmade project bag, which was sent in by Daughter, and I've kept it in the packaging because it's packaged so beautifully. So it's a handmade project bag, and there are a couple of gorgeous mini skeins, and they were donated by Ellie at Craft House Magic. Thank you, Ellie, that's really kind. So I love another fabulous prize for the last month of the knit along this year. So do get your entries in. I need to open up a new thread, which I will get done as soon as I can. So you can pop your FOs in there for the last month of the knit along, and it has been a really enjoyable knit along this year, and I really would like to thank each and every one of you for taking part and entering all your fabulous projects. And I'm sure if we saw all the stash piled up that has been used in the knit along throughout the year, it would be quite astonishing. So well done to everybody, whether you've won a prize or not. I think the fact that we've knitted up lots and lots of projects and used up some stash, I think that makes everyone a winner in some way or another. So that is the Old and New Cowl coming to a close. Now I do have a couple of ideas for knit alongs for next year. I don't think at this stage I'm going to run a year-long one like the Old and New Cowl, but I do have a couple of ideas for some knit alongs which I will announce in the new year, and there's a possibility of one of them being a collaboration with another podcast, so that might be quite good fun too. I'm just waiting to hear back on that. Okay, while we're talking about giveaways, I'd like to mention that when I went to Festival at the beginning of November, my lovely friend Amanda, Knitting Mummy on Instagram, and I went to Hitchin in Hertfordshire to Festival. It was a Saturday, and we had a really, really nice day. It was quite some nice, very nice vendors there, and a little bit of yarn shopping was done, of course, which I'll show later on in the podcast. But the lovely Marta from Matushka Yarns, she is Matushka Yarns on Instagram, she came up to me at Festival, and it was really lovely to meet her, and she gave me some yarn, and she also gave some yarn for a giveaway for the podcast, which is super exciting and very generous and kind of her. So let me show you the yarn, and then I'll tell you details of how you can enter the giveaway. Okay, so these are the mini skeins that Marta has kindly given to the podcast, and they are Munchkin Country is the colourway name. So they're a Wizard of Oz themed set of mini skeins. They're all 75, 25 merino and nylon, and there's 5 20-gram mini skeins in this selection here. So you've got this gorgeous deep tealy blue, and then some really nice variegated minis as well, which are going to look fabulous. They'd make amazing scrappy socks, especially if you did the heels and toes in this colour. I think they'd look really fab. So I'm going to open a thread in Ravelry where you can enter the giveaway for this set of mini skeins. And what I would like you to do, I'll put a link to Marta's shop at the beginning of the thread, and I'm going to ask you to go and have a look at her website and tell me what your favourite colourway is that she's got at the moment in her yarn website, and then I will do a random number generator to win the mini skein set. So I hope you will take part in that and you can have a chance of winning these. So thank you, Marta, and it was lovely to meet you at Festival, and your yarn is beautiful. I did get a sock set given to me as well, which I will share a little bit later on when I share the goodies that I got that day. So I'll put that down to one side. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that I was thrilled to see so many new subscribers, and it had piqued my interest as to how so many people had come and found me in the last month. So I thought I would do a little YouTube giveaway. So just in the YouTube comments below this video, not on Ravelry. And I would like you to particularly, I mean, everyone can enter, but particularly if you have subscribed and found the podcast in the last sort of month or so, if you can say that you're a new subscriber, and or if you're an old subscriber, but just so that I can see, because as I said, I am quite nosy, and just tell me how you found the podcast, and that will form your entry for the giveaway. And the giveaway is going to be for an enamel pin from Tribe Yarns in Richmond. Really nice enamel pin for a project bag, and I'll find something to go with that as well. So just a little fun giveaway. So just pop a comment down below this video here and tell me how long you've been a subscriber for and how you found the podcast, and I will draw I'll do a random generator on the YouTube comments and announce a winner next podcast. So that is another giveaway. Now, you may have heard me mention Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade on the podcast once or twice. I am a huge fan, and I love all of Helen's patterns, and have been a member of the Socks Society and the Shawl Society and various things that Helen has done. And I will talk about one of her patterns from Knit Vent later on in Works in Progress. But if you follow Helen on Instagram, and she's Curious Handmade on Instagram, you will have seen news of late that she is in the process of publishing her first book, which is a book of the Shawl Society Season 1. And it's exciting times because obviously Helen has had her patterns published in lots of magazines and also on Ravelry. But this is her first book purely of her own patterns. So she has very, very kindly offered a copy of the book and a Shawl Society pin to the podcast. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the book first. I'm going to show you what the cover of the book looks like. You may have seen this on Instagram. Helen was asking for opinions. There are a couple of different front cover options, but this is how the book will look, and it's going to be published on Amazon on the 4th of December. Now today is Sunday the 2nd, so just in a couple of days time on Tuesday. I'm just going to check my notes, so just forgive me a moment if I look down. And the Shawl Society Season 1 book is a book of the 6 patterns from the first Shawl Society season, and they are all stunning patterns, and most are suitable for beginners and some maybe for a more intermediate knitter, or if you're an adventurous beginner. But the way that Helen writes her patterns, if you've ever knitted one of her patterns, you will see that they are very clearly written with her trademark percentage checklist. So each and every row is a separate line on the pattern, all written out clearly for you, stating right side or wrong side of the pattern, if you need to change colours, and it also gives you a percentage checklist of the stitch count and the percentage of how far through the pattern you are, so you can check on yarn usage, which is really, really handy, particularly if you've substituted yarn and you want to make sure that you're going to have enough as you go through the project. So as I mentioned, the official launch date of the, or publication date of the book is on Tuesday the 4th on Amazon. I don't have a link to it at the moment because it isn't published, but if you aren't already following Helen on Instagram as Curious Handmade, make sure you do that, because I'm sure she will be putting details of it on her Instagram as soon as it's published. I'm so thrilled that Helen has offered our podcast a free copy of the book and the beautiful enamel Shawl Society pin. So what I'm going to do is, again, in my Ravelry group, which is Bumble Stitches Podcast, I'm going to open a thread and I'm going to ask you to tell me about your favourite Helen Stewart pattern. And it might be one that you've knitted, or it may be that you have never knitted one of Helen's patterns, but it's one that you particularly like the look of. And if by some strange reason you have never seen any of Helen's patterns, which I think is highly unlikely, but if you haven't, then have a look at some of Helen's patterns on Ravelry and let me know which is your favourite from what you see in her Ravelry store. And again, I will choose I will get Random Generator to choose a post for us and announce it on the next podcast, and then Helen will send a copy of the book and the pin to the lucky winner. So thank you very much, Helen. It's very, very generous of you. I'm very excited for you, and I'm sure everyone would like to offer their congratulations to you on publishing your first book. Okay, shall we have a little look at some works in progress? Now, I must admit, I am a little bit overwhelmed at the moment with Christmas approaching at a rate of knots, and I'm still really, really busy at work, and all the Christmas shopping and gift knitting and regular knitting and just keeping the house afloat is just all, it just seems a little bit overwhelming at the moment. So I think I need to take a deep breath sometimes and reflect a little bit and try and prioritise and not put so much pressure on myself to do so many things. But you're going to think I'm crazy in a moment, because I'm going to share with you a series of works in progress that are completely self-imposed and the deadline, and I must have been mad and I don't know why I did it, but there you go. We do these things sometimes, don't we? But let me start with a particularly beautiful work in progress that is from the Knit Vent 2018, which is the Curious Handmade Knit Vent series, that has come back again this year, and some beautiful patterns that Helen has released for the festive season. Now, the first pattern that I have knitted, I've got quite a few ready to go, but the first pattern that I'm knitting is the Dust of Snow wrap. I'm just flicking through my pattern to try and find the photograph for you, and I can't find the photo page. Here we go. So it's the Dust of Snow wrap. I'm sure lots of you have seen this already on Instagram or on Ravelry, and it's a long wrap style shawl, and it's been designed to utilise yarn advent calendars. So it works through 24 mini skeins, and those are held with a skein of with a strand of mohair throughout, to kind of give a sort of cohesion between the different mini skeins and just sort of pull the whole project together. So Dust of Snow wrap. Now, I did have lots of minis still left from advent calendars last year and lots of other various minis, but as much as I wanted to do it in all the pretty colours that have been shown on the pattern, which I think look absolutely stunning, but I'm terrible for knitting things that I think that are really pretty colours, and then after I've knitted them I realise that they aren't necessarily things that I would wear or would wear a lot of the time, and therefore I don't get a lot of use out of them, and it seems a shame. So I thought I would be sensible this time, and I am knitting my Dust of Snow wrap in shades of grey and neutrals. So this is my project so far. It still has got lots of ends on it that I haven't woven in because I am a naughty knitter and I don't often do them until the end of the project. But this is how I'm getting on so far. So I'm doing all the neutrals, all the greys, and I will by the end of it have a project that will go with lots of clothes that I wear all the time for work. You know, just more, I think it will be more wearable and more usable on a day-to-day basis than maybe some of the other multicoloured skeins that I could have used. And if we can just take a moment to look at the halo on this, I don't know if the camera's picking it up well enough, but by using the mohair, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it is like a big squishy cloud to knit on. It's really tactile and it's comforting to be knitting. It's got a really nice, as I said, it's very tactile and you just want to stroke and squish it, and I think it's going to be such a really cozy feeling wrap once it's all complete. I've been very, very good in that I'm utilising lots of, I would say scraps of yarn, but they aren't, scraps isn't necessarily the right word, leftovers from other projects that are more than minis. So sort of when you've finished a pair of socks maybe and you've got about 30 grams left, or you finished a shawl and you've got about 50 grams left of a skein, those are the sort of scraps that I'm talking about. I'll do a quick run through of some of the yarns that I'm using. Some of them I can't even remember what they are, but first thing I'll mention is the mohair, and this is in the Signet colourway, and it's mohair by Mint Bee Yarn, and this was purchased at Festival, and it was quite funny really because Amanda and I had a good walk round the show about 2 or 3 times and stopped and had tea and cake and lots of chats with people, and we were pretty much done. We'd got to the point where we'd looked at everything we wanted to, we'd purchased everything that we wanted to buy, and we were ready to go. And we sort of said to each other, are we done now? And I said, yep, I'm definitely done. I don't need anything else. We can go. And as the words left my mouth, I stopped because I spotted this mohair on Mint Bee Yarn's stand and stopped dead in my tracks and bought 3 skeins of mohair. So, but it was the perfect shade of grey and it was just too good to pass up. So that's the mohair content. One of the sections here, and I'm going to try and repeat them as I go through, but this section here where I've got my little Eva Faith Nutcracker Progress Keeper from last Christmas, this section is a Mr. B's yarn, and I'm hoping the colours are good. I really do apologise for the light. It was either do the podcast now or not get a chance to do it today, so I hope you'll forgive me. This is the Stella Bella colourway, and Stella is Claire and John's lovely border collie, their dog. If you watch the Bird Box podcast, you will have heard Stella pop in and out while they're podcasting, and I think she's featured on there before, but she's their gorgeous dog, and this is her namesake yarn. So this is the one that I'm using as a neutral, and there was a mini that came with it. It was a sock set, and I can't remember I've got 2 here. I think this was the one that came with it. It came as a sock set, and this was called Lamb's Tail. It's a very dark charcoal grey, so that's going in as well. And then we have some John Arbon Knit by Numbers. This was left over from my Birkin sweater, so that's going in as well. I've got some hedgerow yarns, like a graphite grey, and this is on a silk blend, I believe. That was left over from a shawl project. I've got a Hedgehog Fibres mini. I think this is called Graphite as well. Oh, that's quite a bit darker. I think this is more like a pewter grey, I would say. Yeah, I'd say that's more pewter, and that's definitely graphite. And then I've got various other grey sort of minis. I think this was some commercial. These I think are mostly from a commercial yarn sort of gradient set that I bought a long time ago, and I can't remember who the manufacturer is. But you get the picture. They're all basically shades of grey. And those, along with the lovely Mint Bee yarn, I think are knitting up really nicely. So that's the Dust of Snow wrap, and I would like to be knitting on it more, but you'll see why I'm not in a minute when I get to some more of my whips. But this is definitely my go-to when it's all a bit much and I need to just chill out and zone out and really, yeah, get lost in my knitting, because the feeling of it and there's just enough interest in the pattern repeat for it not to be a boring knit, but at the same time it's almost mindless. You can just switch off and really enjoy the process, and I think that's what's important when things just get far too busy at this time of year. So I should pop that one away in the bag. That is living in my La Bien-Aimée project bag. And the next whip I wanted to share with you, just move that pattern out of the way. I need like a little elf to help me when I'm podcasting, I think, a little Dobby or something, just to sort of move things around and tidy up as I go. The next, now this has got so big and cumbersome, it's living in this huge drawstring bag that came from a stationery company ages ago. I thought it was quite a cute bag. It's outgrown all project bags that I own. And this is the Tecumseh sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And it's a beast. It's not far from being finished actually. But let's just see if we can make some sense of it here. I'm going to scoot back a bit, I think. So let's just tuck these ends in here. So as you can see, I have finished all the colour work on the body. I'm sorry, it's not very photogenic, is it? Because it's all bits and pieces. So I've finished all the colour work on the body, and I have done some of the colour work on the first sleeve. You can see I've just got to do this, the orangey, the rusty section on the sleeve, and then it's down to the rib for the cuff. And I need to do some surgery here. It's just where it's made a little gap. So then I've got to pick up the other sleeve, and the colour work on the body is done, so I need to just knit down a bit further on the blue and then put the hem on it, the ribbed hem. But I thought I would wait until I've got the sleeves done so that I can put it on and get an idea for the finished length that I want. And also, you know, I hate sleeves, hate knitting sleeves. So I figured if I got them out of the way as soon as possible, that would be a really good plan for me. And this is all being knit in the Shropshire Ply yarn from You and Ply in Shrewsbury. And they're all naturally dyed yarns on British wool that is a blend that includes Shropshire fleece in it. So it's a really nice, it's rustic, I think it's going to really bloom and block up, and like when it's soaked and block, I think it's going to be really nice and drapey. At the moment it feels a little bit but I think it's because of the colour work and so on. And it's quite a toothy yarn, so it was brilliant for colour work. It's all really wanted. Each stitch has quite happily sort of settled into the next one, so you can see on the colour work it's worked really well. And I particularly like because it's naturally dyed and hand dyed, the variations in the blue. I really like it that it isn't just a solid tone throughout. So that's my Tecumseh. I'm going to be daring and show you my floats because I'm actually quite pleased with them this time. I have struggled with colour work in the past, but I think they're not too bad now. I'm learning that if in doubt, leave longer floats than you think you're going to need, and then you kind of get a better result than if you don't. So that's Tecumseh, and I would dearly like to get this finished, but it's not priority at the moment. But once some of the urgent knitting is out of the way, I can get that one complete too, and hopefully show you, if not on the next podcast, but maybe on the one after that. So I'll pop that down, wait for the elf to come and tidy it away. So yes, I have, in my wisdom, last Sunday, I decided that I was going through my head and through my notebook of all the gifts that I bought people for Christmas, who's got what, and sort of, you know, balancing it all in my head. And I thought I should really knit Justin a pair of Christmas socks to go with his prezzies, because he really likes, he's very, very knit worthy, and he loves his hand knit socks. So I thought, yes, I'll knit him a pair of socks. So I started that, and then I thought, oh, perhaps I'll knit Lulu a pair of socks too, because she's going to be with me at Christmas with her boyfriend. And yeah, before I knew it, I had embarked on a journey of knitting all the family a pair of Christmas socks. So yeah, then it all just went a little bit crazy. I'll show you some of what I've been up to. So this is in my bag from Lulu. This was part of the Nutcracker, it was a set release, a kit release last year, part of the Knit Vent 2017 Nutcracker collection, and it had a skein of yarn from the Wall Kitchen, the bag by Lulu, the little Nutcracker Progress Keeper that you saw on my Dust of Snow wrap, and the pattern was by Helen, a Curious Handmade. So yeah, it's living in this lovely bag, and I have knitted, and these actually, the good thing is though, all these projects that I'm doing for Christmas socks are from Deep Stash, so I'm quite pleased about that. I'm knitting these in Knit Picks Felici, and this is the Spaceman colourway, and the first sock is done. It's not blocked, but the first sock is done. They look better actually on camera than they do in real life in regards to the colours here. In real life they are very, very similar, and almost in some lights blend into one. It looks like one big stripe, but they do look a bit better here. Let's pop it on a blocker. And I just knitted these 64 stitches for Justin. He's got a slender ankle. Yeah, 64 stitches. He wanted the legs a bit longer, he said, on his next pair of socks. Apparently I don't knit them long enough. I did a slip stitch, heel flap and gusset, and a rounded or umbrella style toe. The toe I actually took from one of Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears patterns, which I really, really enjoy. This sort of toe. It doesn't have a lot of Kitchener in at the end. It only has about 8 stitches to finish off and Kitchener, which is always a bonus. So that's, yeah, half finished object if you like. So are we on track? 2nd of December, I've got quite a few pairs of socks to knit. But so I need to cast on the next one for Justin. Then I will share with you what's in this one. I'm trying to get all the Christmas bags out. All my Christmas project bags. Yeah, in this, living in this bag, which is another Nutcracker bag. This is one that I made last year. I was and sold a few of these in my Etsy shop as well. And these are Lulu's Christmas socks in progress. Nearly lost the stitches off the end there. And these are being knit in yarn from Nora George. Quite about 2 years ago, I think. I bought this as a sock set. The camera's not really picking up the stellina. I don't know if you can... Is it picking it up? Not really. They are sparkly stellina, and it was a sock set called Candy Cane. But it came with a dark green, very Christmassy green mini. But I've paired it with this, which is also stellina. And this was from West Green Loft Yarns. And this was part of the Wizard of Oz mini set that I showed a couple of podcasts ago. And this is the sort of like the Ruby Slippers colourway. So I thought that would go really nice on Lulu's socks. Lulu's fab to knit socks for because she has got tiny feet. In fact, we joke and say her feet are like hooves, which doesn't go down very well. But great for sock knitting when you don't have to do very much in the foot length. And this really cute little pair of Ruby Slippers as a progress keeper, which came with the mini skein from Vicky at West Green Loft Yarns. So yeah, that's another pair on the needles. That's as far as I am with the first sock. Lulu's again are 64 stitches, and I'm doing the same heel, just the slip stitch, heel flap and gusset, and I should do the same toe but in the coordinating mini. So that's those. I do need to get my skates on a bit. And then I have in here this little bag here. This little project bag is a project bag that came with my advent calendar, and I mentioned it previously on the podcast. The lovely Kelly from Lay Family Yarn organised a advent calendar swap on Instagram, and my partner was Anna. She's over in Ireland, and we did a swap, and you were supposed to send a handmade ornament with your mini skeins as part of the, you know, sort of requirements. But we agreed between us that we would quite like to send a project bag because we were more bag makers than we were ornament makers. So this is the really cute little bag that Anna has made for me and sent with my advent calendar. So cute, with all these little Christmas, they're like little sort of elf helpers or little children, little snowmen. Really, really pretty. I love the colours. So that's housing another one of my sock whips for Christmas. Actually, I'll just show you, I'll show you how beautifully Anna put the calendar together. Well, so it came in this lovely box, the lovely sort of candy cane striping, and I think I was supposed to open the project bag. It's a bit late if I wasn't, so I might be naughty. And Anna has wrapped all the minis up so they look like sweeties. So I don't know if you can see, they're all wrapped up like sweeties. And underneath there is a layer of beautiful Lindt chocolates, and then there's a big skein of yarn here for Christmas Day. So thank you, Anna, it's lovely. I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm going to be doing some scrappy socks with my minis, but I can't even think about starting them off until I've got my Christmas gift knitting done. I'm keeping them safe in a little jar, all the minis, and loving the project bag and just loving the swap. And a huge thank you to Kelly from Lay Family Yarn, because it was such a good idea, a way of getting a beautiful yarn advent calendar without, you know, the huge expense of buying one. There are some stunning advent calendars out there. I had Nora George one last year, but I just didn't feel I could justify spending that much money on one this year. But this has been absolutely fabulous, so thank you, Anna. Right, let's pop that down and then I'll show you the socks that are in here. Now, I mentioned how tiny Lulu's feet are. Her boyfriend's feet are huge. I don't actually know what size they are, and she's on holiday at the moment in Florida, so I'm going to ask her when she comes back, which is tomorrow, which is good because I've missed her. Yeah, he's got big feet though, and I would guess they're probably about a size 11, I would think. So these are, I've also cast on 72 stitches because he's quite a big chap, and I think he will need the extra size in his socks. So again, this is Deep Stash. This is an old style Nora George tag, and this was one of her Great Characters of Literature clubs, and it's Jo March from Little Women. Now I know obviously these are socks being knitted for a man, but I think they are a really nice sort of unisex colourway. I don't think there's anything particularly, although the colourway is from Little Women, I don't think they are overtly feminine in any way. I think they're very unisex. They've got a nice blend of colours, and I think they're going to look fab knitted up as Christmas socks. I've got a gorgeous little progress keeper on here, which is from Tracy at Thimble and Thread Make, which is a cup of cocoa, which isn't playing ball and sitting, I don't know if you can see it. I'm not doing a very good job of this today, am I? So I'm worried about running out of yarn, because normally everyone I knit socks for has got quite feet that are more on the smallish side. So always have loads of yarn left over, but I think I'm going to struggle, especially seeing as these are on 72 stitches. So what I've done to try and play it safe, I did split my yarn into two 50-gram cakes, so at least I know I've got the same to work with on each sock. And I'm going to knit two, I won't be able to do them very long and have a long foot, so I think I'll do them at just a bit more. Pop in a heel, and there was a little, these are coordinating mini, so I'm going to use that for the heels and toes, which will stretch this yarn a bit further, and then knit down and get as much as I can out of the main colourway. So that's another pair, and I have got a lot of Christmas socks to get done in time for the big day, and to make sure they're all blocked and ready. And as I said, completely self-imposed. I didn't need to do them, but once I got an idea into my head, that was kind of it really. So those are all the works in progress. Okay, I've got some acquisitions to share with you now. As I mentioned, I went to Festival at the beginning of November, and I hadn't planned to buy too much yarn, but we all know what it's like. You get to a yarn show and you just get a little bit carried away with some of the pretties there, especially when everybody has got such an amazing display of yarns and samples on their stands that take your fancy, and all caution just goes out the window. So anyway, without further ado, let's share some pretties with you. So I showed you the Dust of Snow wrap and the caked up mohair that I was using. These are the other two skeins that I've got ready, and it's from Mint Bee yarn, and it's the Signet colourway, and their mohair is called Bee Fluff. It's 72% kid mohair, 28% silk, 50 grams, 420 meters on a skein, and it's knitting up beautifully. It couldn't have been a more perfect colour for what I had planned, to have this lovely grey hand-dyed mohair. So that was one purchase. I also mentioned the lovely Marta from Matushka Yarns, and in addition to the mini skeins that she's given as a prize to the podcast, she also gave me this gorgeous sock set, which is called Marshmallow Sparkle, and it's got a gold stellina base, which I think the camera might be just picking up on the mini, which is the most beautiful shade of red, and I think there's not much that's more Christmassy than those shades of green and red and browns. It's just absolutely glorious, and so kind of Marta to give me a sock set of yarn. So thank you again. So that was another acquisition from the show. Then the lovely Maya was there from the Wool Barn, and Amanda and I spent quite a while admiring all the skeins on the stand, And one that I could not resist is this beautiful skein of cashmere sock 4-ply in the honeybee colourway. It's a little bit darker. It's actually, considering the light in here is poor, that's quite a good representation of the colour. But it is beautiful. It's subtly tonal. It's squishy. It's 80% superwash extra fine merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. I don't know what it's going to be yet. It hasn't told me that, but it is just so bouncy and squishy and rich looking. I think whatever it turns out to be, it's going to be stunning. And then the sensible part of me decided to get the charcoal colourway, just because it's a great neutral. Same base, the cashmere sock 4-ply. So those two came home with me from the Wool Barn. And then a new to me dyer, which is Hey J, and she's heyjyarn.com, and she's Hey J on Instagram. And she had some really quite unusual skeins on her stand, some really amazing variegated skeins, just too many to choose. I was completely overwhelmed and didn't know what to go for, but in the end I plumped for this in the, what's the colourway, does it say on here? Do you know what, it doesn't say a colourway, but it is, as you can see, this gorgeous tonal coral, ranging from sort of like a soft peachy orange right down to a proper deep corally tone. And these are her big skeins, and it's 150 grams, so it's a big skein, 600 meters, and it's 55% superwash blue face Leicester, 45% silk, and there's 600 meters on here, so a really nice shawl quantity. And I think that's probably what it will become, and I think with the silk content as well, it's going to make a really nice drapey shawl. So if you don't know of Hey J, check her out on Instagram and on her heyjyarn.com, because her yarns are amazing. She had some really nice fade packs for sweaters as well, which were a bit tempting, but I chose this one in the end. I'm really happy with it. Also went along to the Knitting Shed, and they have some gorgeous yarns from Ainsworth and Prynne, and I haven't, for all the yarn that I do have, I don't have any with neps in, and I really like these sort of like these tweedy neps, and I chose this pinky colour, which is the colourway's Ointment. It's their slubby sock base, 85% superwash merino, 50% viscose nep, and it's 100 grams, 400 meters. But the gorgeous pinks with all the different colours of the neps in, and the neps range from black through to cream and beige and soft browns, I think is absolutely stunning. And to go with it, I've got this mini, which is sort of like a browny, mushroomy, charcoaly tonal with the same colour neps in, and I think they're going to make some really nice socks. There were some gorgeous sample socks on their stand, which were knitted in colour work, with this being the main colour obviously, and the colour work done in this at the top of the sock. I'm not sure if the neps will work for colour work, but even if they don't, I think just these with coordinating heels and toes will look stunning. So couldn't resist those. And what else did I get? Oh, while I was on Mint Bee Yarns getting my mohair, which as I said was like a kind of, yes, I'm all done, oh my god, no, I'm not done, I need more, I need to get some mohair. Then I spotted a beautiful, I think it was the Jack and Olive cabled hat that was knitted as a sample in this DK silk blend yarn. And I don't know what I've done with the band. I might have it in my, I may have it in here. Have I got it in here? Yes, I do. Oh, I've also found another whip. I said whips were done, but they're not. I'll show you that in a sec. This is called Strawberry Smoothie, this colourway, and it's their Be Blissful. That's the right way up. It's their Be Blissful base, which is 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. So no wonder it is just, you can see it's just like, it's gorgeous. And the hat that was knitted out of it was just so squishy but drapey, really luxurious feeling. So I couldn't resist that. It's a DK weight. And I also bought a pom-pom from the stand too to go with it. So that was another purchase from the show. Was that everything? Yes, I think that was everything from Festival. I did buy some stitch markers, which are on the Forgotten Whip, which is living in my La Bien-Aimée signature yellow field fringe bag, which I bought at the retreat. And living in here is the Pull the Wool Over hat, which is a free pattern by Espace Tricot, which is available on Ravelry. And I am knitting that from, here it is, here's the whip. Can you see my, oh, here we go. My little starey judgy cat living on there. And that was a really cute set of stitch markers that I got from, I can't pronounce it, I'm not going to try, Anne Kattenbag, I believe. Well, I don't believe, I know it's not the correct pronunciation, but it's how it reads, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, the company behind all the Sinister Cat designs. And here's how this is knitting up. It's got the big 4x4 rib, and then just a straight stockinette stitch hat, which I need to go pom-pom shopping again, I've decided. This is being knit in Debbie Bliss Falkland Aran, which I don't know if it's still available, and it's the duck egg colourway, so really enjoying knitting that. So those stitch markers were the last thing that I bought at Festival. Since then there have been a couple of purchases, and I'm not going to go into them today. I'll save them for the next podcast, otherwise it's a little bit too much, like just a long list of stuff that I've been buying. And as I said, I feel a bit overwhelmed by everything at the moment. I think I need to knit some more stuff before I buy any more yarn. But I couldn't resist when I saw on Instagram that Maya at the Wool Barn had done a special sock set. This is the Red Robin sock set, and it's for the final part of Helen Stewart Curious Handmaid's Handmade Sock Society series. So the pattern isn't out yet, and I don't know what the pattern's like, but this is the yarn set for it, and I couldn't resist. I really couldn't resist it. It's a 80% superwash blue face leicester, 20% nylon, 100 grams in the main skein, and a 20 gram mini. So Robin Redbreast, which I think is absolutely stunning. And the red again is a really lovely shade of red. I think red can either be really right or really wrong, but this is completely right. And although I haven't seen Helen's final pattern yet, I'm also really tempted to knit this into Danny's latest pattern, which is the Feather in the Nest socks. So Danny of Little Bobbins, this is her latest sock pattern, which is really pretty with these little, this stitch design that looks like little feathers, which I think would look really, really nice in this colourway. So as usual, I'm spoilt for choice, and I realise I am very lucky and very privileged to have such a nice choice of things to knit and projects to work on, and it brings me a lot of joy. So I think after a very rambly and disjointed episode, which I hope hasn't been too awful for you all, and if you've stuck with me till the end, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. So I'm going to say goodbye to you for today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of what you're doing today. I hope you catch up with all the lovely Vlogmas videos. I've been really enjoying watching those and getting into the festive spirit. And I hope you enjoy what you're knitting on. And until the next time I see you, take care and happy knitting. Bye.